All right, let's talk routing. All right, so all routing is basically we put a URL into the browser, and then we're letting the MVC app know, hey, like what method in the controller should I run when someone gives me a URL? All right, so basically the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to create some views related to the customer. So we're going to do like a register view. The people come to our site and they want to register to buy our coffee. So we're going to, we have the model already, the customer model right here with the first name and last name. Let's go ahead and, well, let's keep it like this, it's fine. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a controller for the customer. So I'm going to add controller. I'm just going to do an empty controller for the moment. And I'm going to call it customer controller, so because it should match the name of the model. Okay, customer controller, and this inherits from controller. This is an MVC class we're inheriting from. If you want to go into more detail about it, you can always go in and look at it by going to definition if you're super curious, but there's no real need for that. It gives us what we need for it. It does what we need to do. All right, so I would like to have a register view. So what that means is I like to have a page where they can go and register. So right now I just have the basic index view, but I don't actually have any views yet. So like if I try to go to index or anything else in here, there's no corresponding view. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do register. So I'm going to do public iActionResult register. And it's going to return a view right now. Now, I have this in my controller, but I don't have a view that corresponds to this. So if I tried to go to like the register page, it would give me an exception because it's like, hey dude, there's no like CSHTML file that corresponds to this. So I'm going to put slash customer. This is the name of the controller, and the action will be register. So if we look at this URL, this is the base. This is what you start off with. This is the controller. So it has this customer controller, so that's where it comes from. And then the action is register. So if I try now to do it, it'll give me an exception because it's like, hey bro, I went to views customer register, didn't find it. I went to views shared register, didn't find it. Okay, so it couldn't find a CS HTML file to display anything, so it just gave me an exception. So we're going to have to create that file. We're going to go to views, and I'm going to add a folder first. I'm going to call it customer. Yes, the name needs to match the name of the controller. If you call the controller customer controller, then the folder of the view must be customer. Yes, you can override this yourself. I don't know why you would go through all the trouble of doing that when it just does this for you. So I wouldn't bother. I would just say this is customer controller, and then this folder right here should be called customer. That way it knows where to find the view. We're going to add a view. Razor view empty is fine. And we're going to go ahead and call it register. And then you can get rid of this junk, who cares? This is the register view. All right, let's go ahead. When we navigate to this page, we should be able to see this. So let's run our app. So I'm going to navigate to it. I'm going to go to the customer controller, and I want to do the register action. Bam. Okay, that what I wrote there in register.cshtml is now appearing on the screen. So this is how you basically do routing. The first step is make sure you have a controller. Okay, normally we do one controller per model. So there should be, like, for example, I have two models, customer and product. There would be a customer controller, there would be a product controller. Is that what you have to do? There's a case for not doing it that way, but for this is the most simple way of doing it and the clearest. So you have your model, you have a controller for your model, in this case customer controller, and then you have actions. Okay, public iActionResult, and then the name of the method. This could be whatever the heck you want. It could be McGillicuddy if you felt like it. iActionResult zebra return view. As long as the naming matches. So if I wanted to have a zebra page, I like zebras. If I try to navigate to it, it will work as long as the name matches. There's no Like you may think like, oh, there's a special thing to it. Not really. It's just what do you name it. So I'm going to go to customer. I'm going to zebra. Bam, I like zebras. Okay, so do not get hung up on naming, just make it make sense. So you're going to create a controller for your model. You're going to create some actions. Then you need to have a corresponding view in a folder with whose name matches. So make sure you're keeping track of the names. The MVC is making an assumption that you're going to name things a certain way, so just kind of follow through with that. All right, so if you want to add entity framework to your controller, you're going to have to do two things. Number one, make absolutely certain that in your program CS from the last video, you put this line in here. This line is to let the program know, hey, this is how you make a DB context. If you don't have this line in here, it will not work. Okay, it will error out. What we're going to do is we're going to type a couple things. We're going to do private, read-only, application, DB context. And because it's a private variable, we're going to do underscore context. Okay, you can name this whatever you want. You want to name it DB context, application DB context, I don't care. It's up to you. Okay, make sure we put this in here. So now we've got it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a constructor for the customer controller. So we're going to do a constructor, public customer controller, application DB context. Remember, there's no underscore here. And we're going to basically set the context equal to the context that's coming in. So I am saying give the program is going to provide this for us. We don't have to. You don't have to figure out how it does that. It does it in the background. And we're going to make sure that this controller gets the dependency it needs. So with this setup, you now have access to Entity Framework. So if you wanted to show all your customers, remember you could do underscore context. Remember you're using the private variable, not this one. This one is just for the scope. You want to use this one. Context dot customers, for example, dot to list async. Or to list. Let's do that. Fine. Okay, don't worry about the async stuff. Just try to just do it like this. So you could use the context like this. So for example, if I want all customers, I could do this. Okay, the ones you really care about would be like to add a new customer, but we'll talk about that later in another video when we talk about using forms. But for right now, you should be able to do your routes. Remember having a controller and a corresponding view, all right, for your model. And then this code up here is what puts Entity Framework into the controller so that the controller can use our DB context so it knows what to do. And again, just to forewarn any errors, if you don't have this line in here in program.cs, it will not work. Okay, so make sure that this is here. All right, it should be enough for now. It should be enough to get you going. You should be able to make some actions and mash them with your views and just test this out and see how it works.